Imagine the octagon under three very different spotlights. Joe Rogan slams the current heavyweight scene for being, in his own uncensored words, too many fat dudes, and begs the UFC to let the monsters juice again. Ilia Topuria, undefeated golden boy turned lone wolf, silently tears up years of loyalty only 5 weeks before facing Charles Oliveira. And out on the West Coast, a purple-haired Sean O'Malley rewinds a leaked sparring clip so many times he can practically hear YouTube laughing at him. 3 headlines, 1 promotion, and a fan base ready to explode. Tonight, we're diving straight into the chaos. No slow burns, no filler, because every storyline is racing toward a finish line that could rewrite the UFC's rulebook, its champion roster, and its entire approach to greatness. Stick around, because by the end you might find yourself rooting for PEDs, second-guessing perfect records, and wondering whether a broken toe in New Jersey will be the butterfly flapping its wings on the other side of championship history. Joe Rogan's microphone rarely whispers, but his latest tirade could shake the Nevada State Athletic Commission. On his podcast with ex-NFL MVP Aaron Rodgers, Rogan stared straight into the camera and barked, "I don't want to see fat heavyweights. Get the out of here. I want Alistair back on the sauce." The comedian turned commentator wasn't joking. He rattled off the names, Prime Overeem, TRT Vitor, even a pre-USADA Brock Lesnar, then claimed that stricter testing drained the division of athletic freaks and fan intrigue. It's a polarizing stance. Half the audience cheers the honesty, half reminds him that CTE and cardiac arrest are real. Yet Rogan hit a deeper nerve. The heavyweight belt has been practically frozen since John Jones tore a pec last October. While interim champ Tom Aspinall stares at a phone that never rings, Rogan argues a looser pharmaceutical leash would lure back NFL-sized athletes who now choose safer, better-paid sports. Fair point or reckless nostalgia? The line between spectacle and safety is about to be redrawn, and the loudest voice in MMA just handed the chalk to Dana White. Rogan's rant lands because the numbers back him up. Between January 2024 and today, the heavyweight division has produced exactly 1 title fight, and it carried the dreaded interim prefix. John Jones is still rehabbing. Stipe Miocic hovers in retirement limbo. Sergey Pavlovich and Curtis Blades can't buy a booking. And Alexander Volkov publicly blames Jones for shrinking my window, while the UFC lets the GOAT dictate the calendar. Contenders age, contracts expire, fans yawn. Talent isn't the issue. Aspinall, Almeida, Gain, and a finally healthy Tai Tuivasa could headline any pay-per-view. The issue is momentum. Heavyweights used to fight 3 times a year because their bodies healed faster than their highlight reels faded. Now, with USADA's random visits and a champion who'd rather film in Thailand, the conveyor belt Rogan craves has sputtered. Whether steroids are the solution or just a nostalgic punchline, the division desperately needs a jolt. And history shows the UFC reacts fastest when public pressure turns to public mockery. Rogan just lit that fuse. The question is whose career gets blasted open first. While big men stall,
John Jones is probably watching this, so send him a message.
Hello, John. I have nothing against you personally, but I just think I'm better than you. I just know that I can beat you in a fight, so I'm coming for it.
Bantamweight sprint. A week ago, ESPN dropped footage of Merab Dvalishvili sparring with a teammate aping Sean O'Malley's stutter step footwork, hands low, hips loose, head constantly faking offline. O'Malley watched the clip on Tim Welch's podcast and burst out laughing. "I thought it was a skit," he admitted. Half impressed, half insulted. He should pay attention. That partner was actually landing. Sugar's response? Triple his own feints, drill lateral exits, and revisit the calf kick defense that collapsed under Merab's takedown blitz last September. People forget, before the choke, Sugar actually outstruck Dvalishvili 48-41 in significant shots. He knows the blueprint works. He just needs a full tank and sharper sprawls. Behind the scenes, he's trading Fortnite hours for underwater treadmill sprints, adding extra yoga to keep those lanky hamstrings from popping. And, according to coaches, logging the most boring camp of his life. No weed until sundown, phone in a locked case, TikTok only on Sundays. The viral king is starving himself of dopamine so he can binge on gold. But can discipline beat Dagestani relentlessness? Hold that thought, because Merab just hit a pothole of his own. 2 weeks ago, Merab broke a toe during scramble drills. Nothing gruesome, but enough to ice wrestling sessions for 3 days. He called it no big deal, yet teammates admit the injury forced adjustments. Less cage time, more stationary bag work, and 0 barefoot sprints. On paper, a toe sounds trivial, but Merab's entire game is balance, shoot, fail, climb chain, until the opponent drowns. Even a 5% reduction in drive power could let Sugar stuff one extra takedown per round. The kind of math that flips scorecards. Complicating matters. Merab confessed motivation has dipped. It's hard to hype myself for a guy I already choked out, he told MMA Mania. That's a dangerous sentence when the rematch co-headlines UFC 316 in Newark, O'Malley's adopted backyard. Sugar is treating the bout like a title defense. Merab is treating it like chore repetitions. Sometimes the trap isn't underestimating your rival, it's underestimating the new version of your rival. If you think the toe story is small, remember, one busted digit cost Anderson Silva his middleweight crown. O'Malley smelled the blood, and the hunt just got personal.
You got to share a jacuzzi with Sean O'Malley. Tell me what that was like.
I have a good time in jacuzzi with Sean O'Malley. Hopefully I'm gonna win again, and we're gonna spend more good time in jacuzzi. It's gonna be even more sweet.
Shift continents to Madrid, where Ilia Topuria shadowboxes alone under blue LED lights in a private gym he built inside a converted warehouse. Last week he stunned the MMA world by amicably parting ways with Jorge and Agustin Clement, the brothers who guided every fight of his 17-0 run, citing geography, family commitments, and new challenges. Pundits gasped less at the reasons and more at the timing. His lightweight title shot against Charles Oliveira headlines UFC 317 on June 29th. Chael Sonnen, never shy, said he couldn't have done it, and likened the move to cutting your parachute cords while boarding the plane. In Topuria's corner now, his older brother Alexandro, undefeated on the regional scene but light on coaching credentials, and boxing coach Javi Clement, who relocated to live with him. The new setup is intimate, almost monk-like. Sunrise roadwork through Madrid's Retiro Park, afternoon sparring with hand-picked 155-pounders, film study over espresso beside the cage. Topuria claims it's the calm I needed, yet insiders whisper about missing voices, fewer grappling looks, and the pressure of self-policing a diet only weeks from weigh-ins. Freedom feels glorious, until the first bad round and there's no mentor to pull you out of the spiral.
The people were very kind with all of us, so amazing place. Everything we have to say to Australian people is that thank you very much for the hospitality.
We like Sydney. We will be back, but not fighting. Yes.
What's your favorite thing you've done in Sydney?
We've seen this movie before. When Ronda Rousey swapped Edmund for self-help gurus before facing Holly Holm, the head kick came shortly after. Georges St-Pierre briefly left Firas Zahabi in 2011, only to return the next camp citing technical emptiness. Conversely, Conor McGregor fired his boxing coach, doubled down on John Kavanagh, and detonated Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. The verdict: cutting corners can sharpen or shatter depending on the fighter's psychological wiring. Topuria may actually thrive. He's obsessively self-driven, practically fluent in sports science, and claims to have read every page of Marcelo Garcia's syllabus. But Oliveira isn't the type to offer mercy rounds. Do Bronx bring scramble chaos and guillotine traps that punish micro-hesitation. A late camp crisis, sprained thumb, migraine weight cut, shattered ego normally ends with a veteran coach steadying the wheel. Without that safety net, Topuria must DIY his own rescue. The upside? If he crushes Oliveira, he'll stand as proof that loyalty is overrated. The downside plays out live in 4K, and legacy vultures never miss a carcass. Stack these stories on a single timeline and a pattern emerges. The UFC's biggest flashpoints now revolve around change. Some demanded, some self-inflicted, none controlled. Rogan wants regulatory change. Volkov wants scheduling change. Topuria wants personal change, and O'Malley wants narrative change. Underneath buzzwords like legacy and evolution, the business engine is still pay-per-view intrigue. PED nostalgia sells arguments. Camp drama sells tension. Revenge sells tickets. Dana White doesn't need to script anything. Fighters are writing cliffhangers for free. But here's the twist. Each storyline is interconnected.
It's funny, people are saying, you just have a bunch of yes men around you. I'm like, if you watch round 1, 3, and 5 closely, no commentating, the number one criteria as a judge is to judge for damage. Motherfucker got a bloody nose and got his head snapped back in round 1. Is that not damage compared to...
If O'Malley redeems himself himself, the marketing case for lighter divisions balloons, pressuring heavyweights to entertain at any cost. Exactly Rogan's point. If Topuria implodes, critics will blame the cowboy camp switch and remind prospects that a strong corner is non-negotiable, spotlighting why Jones's bench of lifelong teammates is his secret super serum. And if heavyweight chaos continues, the UFC might quietly soften USADA in pursuit of a new Brock-sized star, proving Rogan prophetic. In short, 3 roads lead to one question: how much turbulence will fans tolerate if the show stays thrilling? Merab's broken toe may heal, Topuria's split might gel, Rogan's rant could fade, but every chapter leaves crumbs for the next. If O'Malley stuffs those first 2 takedowns, announcers will reference Merab's injury and spark fresh debates about full camp transparency. Should Topuria wobble in round 4, color commentators will point at the empty stool behind him and ask whether fighters should be allowed mid-camp coach trades. And if the UFC announces John Jones versus Aspinall for December, the Rogan soundbite will be spliced into every promo, because once you publicly demand sauce, fans can't untaste the flavor. Each domino keeps the next story upright so the audience never gets to blink. That's not an accident, it's the machine. The UFC learned long ago that controversies create collisions, and collisions create cliffhangers. The more moving parts, the harder it is to look away. And right now, nothing in sports moves faster than a rumor backed by octagon implications. Which brings us to the only thing left unsaid. What do you, the viewer, actually want? So choose your corner. Do you side with Rogan's call for unshackled titans, or with the doctors guarding tomorrow's brain scans? Do you trust Topuria's lone wolf instinct, or do you see an undefeated record dangling over a canyon without a safety harness? Do you believe O'Malley's discipline era can flip a grappling nightmare, or will Merab's half-healed toe still stomp out Sugar's sweet revenge? Drop your verdict in the comments, because these answers won't stay hypothetical for long. UFC 316 ignites on June 7th, UFC 317 follows 3 weeks later, and heavyweight news could detonate any day that John Jones decides pecs are healed and Twitter beef isn't enough. Until then, remember, in MMA, the greatest storyline is always the next one, and sometimes the smallest ripples, a toe, a podcast rant, or a phone call breakup, create the tidal waves that rewrite belts, legacies, and maybe even the rulebook itself. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and stay tuned, because the next chapter is already writing itself and you don't want to come in halfway through the fight.